Hello, everybody. Louise Eddington, the Cosmic Owl of Cosmic Owl Astrology with a bruised face. I had dental surgery and then managed to spike my face with my thumbnail as well. Now, this is improved. This is better. It's healing really well. So I've been off video a little bit because of that. But we have so much going on that I can't stay off video for long. So you'll just have to excuse this. I don't we all have these things now and again, and it doesn't hurt. So anyway, so before we dive in, this video, this podcast episode, we're going to look at the full moon that's coming up on October the 17th. And there's a couple of things happening between those times as well. But before we dive into all the energies and the numbers and the symbols and on all the things it's going to mean, I will say it's a super moon, which really just means that the moon is close to Earth. So it's going to look rather large when you see the moon out there. And of course, it is the full moon that is coming on the back of these eclipses. I'm recording this the day after the big solar annular eclipse that's caused major wonk. But also, as I record this, we've just had the biggest solar flare of of the solar cycle 25. We had an X 9.1 flare, which is huge, and followed some other big flares as well. I think they had a 7 and an 8. So the sun, not only is the energy heightened, it also the sun is flaring as well, which heightens the energy as well. I don't know whether the sun will continue to flare, but this full moon looks quite big as well. So before I dive in to the energy of the full moon itself, I do want to say I pulled a card and I used my trusty toss or soft deck, which I always pull out for the bigger kind of occasions because it's kind of my deck. The minute I put my hands on it, it was mine. And I pulled the Prince of Swords. So just look at the imagery there, if you like. Okay. Look at the kind of the prince kind of cutting. Swords are mental energy. They are, the mind, communication, things like that. They are all air signs. The royal cards of the swords deck. And this is the prince. So just look at it. Look at those figures kind of hanging off. He's in a chariot. Those figures are kind of pulling this chariot, but he's kind of cutting the way through, it looks like. Anyway, we'll just talk about that first. So first from my own book. So the prince is equivalent to the knight. And so this is forward thinking, direct communication, honesty, daring, and assertiveness. Okay. So this is moving fast, and this is charging forward and pointing ahead. So an Aries, of course, it's an Aries full moon. Aries is very much about movement and charging ahead as well. And then from my favorite book on these cards, Angeles Arian, these are in my Amazon store, which is always in the description below, is the Tarot Handbook by Angeles Arian. So she said the Prince of Swords is about the mastery of creative and intuitive thinking. She said, this card is that aspect of the mind which has newly mastered creative intuitive thinking. The card represents the inspired mind that does not want to be limited, restricted, or restrained in any way. The desire for non-limitation during the creative intuitive process is symbolized by the prince who, with the two swords, a sickle and a large sword, is determined to cut through any thoughts, attitudes, or beliefs that might rein the movement, the chariot, and expression of creative, intuitive thinking. The prince's curved sickle and elongated sword are symbols for the dynamic function of thinking. For women, the Prince of Swords is an expression of an aspect of their animus or internal masculine energy. I think that's true for everybody actually. That desires to express itself in unlimited creative and intuitive ways. Now, that's very relevant, I think, to the actual full moon itself. So let's have a quick look at the chart. All right. So, let me just get rid of this bit at the side. I've actually done two charts because I did want to show you some of the stuff, and then I'm going to show you the stripped down chart because I know some of you who know some astrology go, oh my God, there's so much in that chart. But I do want to show you that the South Node is still at 6 degrees, which is where it's sat through the eclipses. Hecate is still in Libra, having been conjunct the South Node. Hecate, the crossroads goddess, the way shower, the mind, body, spirit, the kind of guide to the shamanic realms, the upper realm, the upper world, the middle world, and the underworld, which are all contained within us, of course, as well. This is Maki, which was conjunct the eclipse. That's a creator god of the Easter Islanders. And the eclipse that we've just had, where Maki was exactly conjunct the Libra sun on the eclipse on October the 2nd, was fully visible from Easter Island. So there's some message coming in from that past for sure. Then we got Black Moon Lilith, who was also conjunct yesterday's eclipse. I'm recording this on October the 3rd. Black Moon Lilith is kind of our wild, elemental, untamed, feminine self that's been sidelined and kept out and ostracized for so long. We've all got it in us. This is Astrea, who is she's actually she was the muse of astronomy and astrology, but she's really connects us with the messages of the stars of the heavens. And this is Juno. Juno is the sacred partnership asteroid. She's Jupiter's wife. She is at the same degree as the sun on the full moon, which is a supermoon. So there's still an awful lot going on this full moon. At the opposite end where the moon is, so it's an Aries full moon. The moon is at 24 Aries, conjunct Eris, the truth teller and pot stirrer and fighter for the outsiders and the marginalized and those that have been left out and deemed ugly or not wanted. We see her, she's been very active in fighting for rights for quite some time. The moon is also conjunct Chiron, retrograde Chiron, both the wound, the gaping wound that opens, but so the light gets in, and so also the key to healing or the shamanic kind of healing energy. So that's the full moon. But then we have Mars over here in Cancer, square to the full moon, but also the full moon really is square to Pluto. Now, Pluto stations direct on, as I record this, and I'll be doing a whole extra video for that, October the 12th, Pluto stations direct at 29 degrees 38 minutes. So Pluto is still at the station degree. So that's a really powerful square. I'll talk about that as well. And also Mars is Aries guide is square to the full moon in Cancer. And so I'll talk more about that as well. The few other things I probably want to talk about. Venus at the anaretic degree, I might bring that up too. This is Urania, probably won't talk about that. Um, I'm just looking at other things. Oh yeah, Jupiter. Jupiter also is retrograde on this full moon. Jupiter's stationing retrograde on October the 9th at 21 degrees and 20 minutes, so has only moved back a short way. So let's just look at the stripped down chart so you can see more clearly that there is this square really to Pluto. Pluto and Mars are coming up to an opposition. Pluto is at the station degree, so really digging in that change and transformation. Jupiter's now retrograde. So you can take a screenshot of this one if you prefer to see it more stripped down. I've left the main asteroids in there. But wow, this is pretty crazily powerful, to be quite honest, this full moon. And I'm not surprised, that it's a super moon, that the sun is flaring, that passions are really high. So let me take that down and let's dive in and start talking about things. Now, the eclipse, the full moon itself is at 24 degrees Aries Libra, because a full moon is always in opposition. And so this is the number is 24 of the degree. And it's so that's a 6 because 2 plus 4 is 6. But is also we're also going to look at the 2 and the 4 as well. We're actually on an 8-day, October the 17th. It's going to be the 17th most places because it's at 7:26 a.m. Eastern. And so that's an 8-day in an 8-year, which is bringing that more return to more prosperity and stability. So I do like that, even though it's a pretty volatile full moon here. But more in kind of well, I'll talk about the energy in a minute. And so yeah, that's enough about that. But let's look at these numbers. I always go to my favorite website for numerology dash the numbers and their meanings dot blogspot.com. I always put a link in the description. But this is if you search the number numerology blogspot, that one will always come up. Okay. So number 24, first of all, the number 24 is about balance, duality, patience, discipline, giving, receiving, love, honor, and practicality. All right. So it's a nice number, really. Okay. So but let's break it down. I said the 2 plus 4 makes a 6. So the number 6 is about connecting above and below, reconciliation, intellectual creativity, going back to that card, discrimination, imagination, union, love, perfection, ability to use the imagination and the intellect combined, relatedness, taking responsibility for choices. This could not be more, the energy of the tarot card I pulled. The 6 relates to the planets Venus and Uranus, and anyway, that's enough for that. So we also look at the number 2 because it's 24 degrees. The 2 is generally thought to be the number like 1, the masculine, 2, the feminine, because it's curved. But the 2 itself really is the diplomat, the peacemaker, kind, charming, insightful. The 2 is also, though, about dilemmas, ambivalence, polarity, because there's choices going on there. There's 2 things going on. All right. So just so that you get a feel of all of these numbers, but it has some very beautiful traits too: grace, devotion, the subconscious, meditation. Now the 4. The four is about practicality, organization, stability is another one as well, service, patience, inner wisdom, traditional values, honesty, and more. The four relates interestingly to Mercury, Uranus, and Saturn, and Mercury and Uranus are of the mind. So back to the Prince of Swords. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of cutting to the chase and fast forward movement as well going on with all of this. Now then, before let's talk about the astrology. So, okay, and I'm just going to quickly check one thing in case we've had another solar flare, because it's no, not yet. Okay, so it's as if one 9.1 flare was not enough. So, let's have a look at the actual chart itself and talk about what this full moon is about. Well, first of all, it is an Aries full moon. As I already briefly mentioned, Aries is the first sign. It's about pioneering, passion, starting new things, taking action. It's Aries is also kind of the I am, who you be. And it's exactly almost conjunct Eris. And now Eris, you guys probably know by now that I like Eris. Eris, she gets blamed for causing the Trojan War in the myths, and she was the goddess of discord. Well, she did throw the apple of discord into the wedding of the elites, gods and goddesses, but she didn't do any fighting herself. She threw in the apple to the fairest, and then they chose to fight amongst themselves. Also, Eris is said to have roamed the battlefield, dousing herself in the blood of the slain. Now, to me, that speaks to kind of going, look how horrible you are. Look at how all of this is. Look at what you're doing to each other. There's no kind of recorded myths about her actually kind of joining in the fighting. So I see Eris as very much kind of revealing and pulling down the picket fence and shaking tables and showing what needs to change. She's very much a truth teller. Now, on the other side, we have the sun in Libra. Libra is about justice, balance, harmony, partnership. Juno is conjunct and exactly opposing the moon, of course, is at 24 degrees Libra. Juno is the sacred partnership asteroid. She was Juno, Jupiter's wife. She represented women and children as a goddess. She was Hera in the other pantheon. You know, she had a hound dog husband, but her husband, Jupiter, has just gone retrograde and so is a little bit weakened here. So she's in a place of strength in the sign of Libra, which is about relationships and partnership. So in a nutshell, what this opposition with the moon and Eris and Chiron, the shamanic healer, and the medicine person opposing Juno and the sun is saying it's we're going to fight for our rights. You know, I already, as I was preparing for this, I read um a Substack blog about a woman in California who was forced to have a C-section to remove her dead fetuses, her twins, after she started to miscarry because they would not abort. And this was in California. You know, the stories are getting more and more horrific. This is the kind of thing that Eris reveals. You know, she is kind of going to go, I'm going to cut through this swords and reveal this truth. And then we have Mars, which is the guide for the Aries full moon in the sign of Cancer, which is birth, the mother, the moon's own sign. So the moon and Mars are in what's called mutual reception. Mars is kind of going, no, we have to kind of fight for our security and our stability. Mars is now in the shadow of the retrograde that will begin right after the US election. So sorry to make it all US based again, but this is going to be fighting for, marginalized people's rights everywhere. But USA is getting a big hit on everything right now, and we're in the midst of these big transformations, of course, because we've had a Pluto return and a Neptune opposition and a Chiron return and various other things. I will be recording some videos looking at the US chart and the charts of the two candidates. I still think that Harris is going to win, and I think she's going to win by a bigger margin than the polls are predicting. But I'm going to look yet again, okay? And then Pluto over here at the station degree, squaring. Well, sorry, I'm not even sharing the chart, but that's okay. Maybe I should share the chart again. Oops, sorry, that made me jump something. Oh, something alerted. Let's share the chart again, so you don't have to just look at my bruises. So Pluto, it is only by 5 degrees square this full moon. Um, and Pluto is also in a sextile aspect to Venus at these anaretic degrees of the signs, so very critical degrees. Venus being the guide for Libra, digging deep into her empowerment and kind of standing up and saying, no, I'm not taking this anymore. This could, I know it's just a slogan, but there's a reason that slogan's out there. We are not going back. We are not going to have all our rights taken away from us. And this is about everybody, this is, we are not going back to being ruled by, the patriarchy or whatever you want to call it, those structures we've been living under. Pluto is going to now move forward and finish their journey in the sign of Capricorn, leaving for the final time in our lifetimes on November the 19th, just a month and 2 days after this full moon. And so on this full moon, that's where Pluto is square to the full moon, the feminine, Venus is speaking to Pluto and saying, come on, we are going to really kind of dig in and reveal all these stories. I think the stories are going to come thick and fast about these poor women that are suffering from these rules. And, I think it's going to inspire more people to vote just to protect the marginalized, because it's just getting really horrible out there, you know. Anyway, and that adds to the fact that Mars is a more compassionate warrior in the sign of Cancer, coming up to oppose Pluto. Again, I'll do that whole aspect. I'll do that whole video about that one as well, that you'll hear a lot of fear about. But Mars and Pluto oppose each other every couple of years. And I've kind of looked back through history and it's not been horrific, to be quite honest. But I'm going to go into greater detail about all of that, of course. But Mars opposes Pluto. Let me just check. I didn't look the date up. Not until November the 3rd. So, quite a while after this. And that's going to be at that anaretic degree, of course, as well. Endings, big change coming, liminal time. It's tense, it's critical. I still see these big transformations coming through. I still see that, this is going to bring radical and revolutionary change in so many ways. Just before this full moon as well, Venus, of course, opposes Uranus. Uranus and Venus have been in a bit of a journey together as well since her retrograde in 2023, where the star point, the Leo star point, was square to Uranus and did bring the rise of many women in many, many ways. So there's that as well. I did want to also mention, in fact, let me just quickly add something and just look exactly where it is. Algol, because this is all happening as well on this full moon. Algol, Uranus and Algol are pretty well conjunct on this full moon. Okay. And so moon opposing sun on the 17th. Uranus and Algol will have had their second exact conjunction. I'll do a whole video on this one as well. But I'll do it looking at the presidential election, I think, because I don't know if you remember when Mars and Uranus and Algol were all conjunct at 26 Taurus. That was almost to the day, I think, the assassination attempt on 45, where the bullet grazed his ear, allegedly. Anyway, so this is all huge. This is just such a powerful, powerful, powerful energy. Add to that fact, we've got Chariklo, which is Chiron's wife, stationing direct not long after this full moon at this 13-degree mark. She actually stations direct at 13 degrees and 11 minutes. So she's almost at that point herself. So to kind of emphasize, Jupiter has just stationed retrograde. It has moved a little bit, but we're not quite still under the station. Pluto stationed retrograde just before this full moon, still at that station degree. Chariklo stationing retrograde. So tension, changes, turning points, a full moon, a full fulfillment. And it's really kind of stepping up and saying, no, we're not going to take it anymore. We're not going to play nice anymore. We are not going to go back, kind of thing. All of those energies. Let me see if there's anything else that just jumps out at me. There's so much going on. I could go on forever, but I don't want to do that because I'm going to make some other videos too. Just know that this full moon is a big full moon. Ceres is still way out of bounds. She got to 30 degrees 55 minutes out of bounds. On the full moon, she's going to be at 29 degrees 55 minutes. Planets are out of bounds when they're more than 23 degrees 27 minutes off the ecliptic north or south. So she's still way out of bounds, saying, our needs are not being met, and that's both individually and collectively out there, and we've got to change. And she's also kind of the great mother of the earth. So well, I think the eclipse, I'm just going to stop the share a minute. The eclipse on October the 2nd, the path of the eclipse on the geodetic map of astrology followed the path of Hurricane Helene almost exactly. And, I think by the full moon on the 17th, the two lunations and this supermoon are going to have shone a real light on, more of the extent of the horrors of what's happening there. We're getting bits of stories now. I know a lot of people are upset because the media is not on the ground and reporting, but you do know that it's really hard to get to a lot of these places right now. and they've got so much to kind of do to help people there, and not just in North Carolina, but the other states as well. And there's a lot of communities were devastated by all of this. Um, they don't want all these like media people there on the ground. They didn't want Donald Trump to be there, and he decided to go anyway and say that Biden wasn't doing enough. Biden has been on sending stuff. He's now sending troops. You know, you don't have to be a fan of his. That doesn't mean anything. But it's just ridiculous. Just look at the actual details. He has been sending what the governors are asking for when it's becoming clearer and clearer that the damages and the devastation is beyond insane. He keeps sending more states are sending stuff. It's you know, anyway, you get the idea. But I think the energy of this full moon with Eris conjunct the moon and Juno conjunct the sun on it, it's going to shine this big light on the pain that this hurricane is causing to so many. And of course, this will also impact other places in the world as well. But, you know, this, I think, because the eclipse was on that, those lines, I think it's really going to highlight and shine the two lights of the sun and the moon, how women and children have been harmed by all the things. Aries is kind of getting really angry and ragey about it. She's kind of running around going, look at this, look at what's going on, all that kind of energy. So I think we're gonna see a lot of what's happening, to be quite honest. And well, I'm not gonna, you know, go on and on about it all the time because it's just quite it's quite horrible, to be quite honest. So anyway, um so I just want to look briefly though at the geodetic map before I move on to the symbols. That the geodetic map is the mundane. That means any, you know, where the lines are going for the eclipse for pretty much anywhere. And through the area of the eclipse, let me look at what's going on there. I need to dive in a bit more. So I'm just locating it. I know you can't see it, but I'm just going to kind of really dive in because I kind of know approximately where these areas are. So, oh, Ceres is going to go through needs met and unmet pretty much through Asheville. Mars is going through some of the other areas or close to where some of them were impacted. Pholus, Centaur Pholus is also going through a lot of this and saying the lid's off now. We can see what's going on here. This is pretty powerful, to be quite honest. So yes, so it's just bear with me 1 minute as well. I just want to look at one more thing. I know I could have done this before, but I didn't think to look at it. Oh yeah, that makes it even clearer. I that Ceres and Pholus, you know, are really gonna highlight what needs to be addressed and what needs changing. So, wow. Okay, so I think that's all of it for the astrology. Know that it's very heightened. I kind of suspect that solar maximum is going to continue a little bit more. There could be more big changes of perception, more changes of alliances, all everywhere. You know, I think people are going to start shouting and going, this is just not on. We cannot do this anymore. We can't keep going on like this. But let me get the symbols, all right, for this lunation. So we always go up. So it's Aries 25. I'm going to go to Dane Rudhyar's symbols for Sabian symbols. So Aries 25 Sabian symbol is the possibility for mankind to gain experience at two levels of being. The keynote is the revelation of new potentialities. That's everything points to that as well. We're going to get a revelation of what could be, you know, I kind of really think. Rudyard says, in some unspecified way, the symbol is a guarantee that man can operate successfully at two levels of consciousness. If they have previously met the condition mentioned in the previous symbol, which is the openness to the influx of spiritual energies. Okay. So he says, be open, be able and willing to shape your translucent mind in the form revealing spiritual fulfillment, and you will be able to experience life and power on inner as well as outer planes. The implied message is one of faith. Humankind can only truly experience what they deeply believe they can experience. Take you again back to this. It's about what you think and what you believe. Okay. So he does say, though, that this symbol announces the possibility of a new step in evolution. How often have I talked about the fact that we are stepping into this new paradigm in such a big way? It's big rising consciousness, but it's still only a possibility, a promise. I'm going to say, individually and collectively, are on probation, he says. We really are. All right, so the Chandra symbols by John Sandbach. So, well, it's all his symbols, really. So the Omega symbol is a man studying a sequence of random numbers, a human, let's say. The degree angel is Nithaya. Never heard of it, but speak your mind, spiritual wisdom, and magic. You're always looking for something, but sometimes you don't know what. You are often forced to wait. You sense the time is not right to act. What you most need is to relax, to not try too hard, and to learn patience. Attuning to silence clears the pathway for messages to come through. And when the time is right, they will effortlessly and with ease. They will effortlessly and with ease. The Chandra symbol is a great dragon asleep in a cave. In the illusion of randomness, powerful and hidden orders lurk. Like the dragon sleeping in the cave, we enter into what immediately is in the now, as if it were a cave in which we shall discover and awaken the great celestial dragon who is ourself. Now, the Pleiadian symbol, they're rechanneled Sabian symbols. I'll just read them to you. You take what you want from them. A messenger has forgotten the message he has to deliver. He was to deliver. I'll let you kind of read about that one, because remember, we're on probation too. And the Azoth symbol, in a garden in paradise, a tree laden with secrets. You know, overall, you know, looking at the chart as well, I think we have this amazing possibility and potential for really shaking things up and new beginnings on this full moon, and letting go of some of this really old crap that needs purging and shaking out. But we always have free will. And will we step into that potential and do our part? So, gosh, what a time we live in. Speak to you next time.